Without a vision, the people perish. Welcome to Vision Plus, a program featuring a positive outlook, dealing with everyday situations of marriage, children, and business. Believing Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Teacher, author, speaker, delighting audiences from New York to Sacramento with a heart and message for the people today. Bonnie would like to remind you of the 800 number on the screen. Please feel free to call at any time throughout the broadcast and share your concerns. Leave your prayer request and someone will pray with you. And now, teacher, author, and speaker, Bonnie.
Hello and welcome. I'm Bonnie Liphart. You're watching Vision Plus. Without a vision, the people perish. I had an opportunity recently to interview Ken Rutger that played 12 years for the, let's see, who in the world? He played a professional NFL player, and he wrote this book, Who Will Be Your Child's Greatest Hero? This particular one is Home Field Advantage. He wrote a lot of books about after the game is over and about professional ball players when they are no longer called to play again. And it's really kind of scary what all is going on. So I wanted you to see some of the books that this one is called Build a Better You Starting Now. As you know, some of you that watch all the time, I write. And this one, Mr. Mike Dechimendi, who is a FedEx pilot and flies around the world, helped me write this one. It's called Emily, about our daughter who is a Russian interpreter. Took 1 million Bibles, her and her group, to the former Soviet Union. And without Mike, you wouldn't see a hardcover book with a jacket that he helped to write and put together for me, primarily. And this one he didn't write, our Bible. This is one that's coming out again, reprinted, called Born Again Marriage, about relationships. That will be out on the market within the next 3 months, maybe 3 weeks, who knows. This is Backstage. Backstage is about, if you want to zoom in on this mic a little bit, it's about a person who was the only woman that ever hired by Hank Williams. And believe it or not, Elvis Presley used to come and watch her play. It's called Backstage, and it's about the country and western singers that are, well, we know them as famous. Now, her name's Bernice Turner. She's not necessarily famous, but she used to own all those buses that B.B. King and Loretta, well, a lot of the players were in. And if you buy any of the other books, you get one of these for free. I'm sorry, I took it out of the shot. That's my fault. I've been known to make a mistake before, as most of you know. And hey, for you guys that got in touch with us about your watching all the time and wanting to see Adam Bass on, now's your opportunity to see him. He is a person, I think, that lives the life. The Lord is his sun and shield. God will give grace and glory. No good things shall be withheld from him who walks uprightly. Psalms 84:11. And I think that he lives that kind of life. And I wanted you to meet him. Adam, I met a few years ago before he was called to go play professional ball, and he's going to tell us a little bit about that, and we want to talk a little about the home field advantage, and also after the game is over. Adam Bass, welcome.
Thanks, Bonnie.
And tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up playing ball professionally.
Well, I grew up here in Huntsville, went to Madison Academy and played baseball, basketball, and football there. And when it was time to go to college, I just kind of looked at the opportunities that I had and decided that baseball probably was the best opportunity for me. So I went on to UAH here in town, played ball for UAH for 4 years. Got drafted in 2003. I'm a pitcher, by the way. Got drafted in 2003 by the Arizona Diamondbacks. and came up through their farm system. In 2003, I played in Yakima, Washington in the short season single A team. Let's see, 2004, I played in Lancaster, California in the high single A team. 2005 in Knoxville, Tennessee in double A. 2006, a little bit back in Knoxville, and then Tucson, Arizona, and then 2007, for the first half of the year I was back in Tucson, and then the second half of the year I got the opportunity to go play in Japan, which was a great experience. And then that season ended and I became a free agent, and then this past season I was in Portland, Oregon. I signed with the San Diego Padres in the offseason as a free agent, and so I was playing in AAA with the Padres in Portland, Oregon.
Now, girls, he's single, but he's really fast and may choke you to death with heel dust if you try to catch him. But he is a single guy, and I don't know how he stayed single all these years. I guess they just couldn't keep up with him, going from Arizona to Knoxville to all these places, California and so forth. Well, tell us a little bit about now all this time. You tell us a little bit about Lynette. Your mom Lynette Bass taught at Madison Academy. I don't remember what your dad does. He'll be angry. See me at church and said, "You forgot where I work."
Yes, ma'am. My mom was the choir director at Madison Academy for, I would say, I think it was about 12 years. I don't know exactly, but she retired from that about probably 3 or 4 years ago. And she and some friends of hers started an interior design business. My dad, Bill Bass, works for a company called InSource. He sells, I don't know exactly what the right term for it is, manufacturing automation software, I think is technically what it's called. It's basically sells software to, manufacturing plants and factories.
Now, how in the world, tell me a little bit about you and your brothers, just the two of you, and he's an old married man, even though I think is he younger than you or older? Older? Okay, that's why he can be married. All right, that's fine. Tell us a little bit about your childhood growing up, and did he want to go to play pro ball, and was he jealous when you did?
I don't know that I'd say he was jealous. We always grew up, and he's 2 years older than me, and it was just two of us, so being relatively close in age, we were always, out back playing wiffle ball or basketball in the driveway or throwing a football around or, just doing whatever we could, staying active, playing some kind of a sport. And he was a really good athlete, probably a better athlete than I was. He unfortunately had some injury issues. He went to play at UAH as well and had some shoulder issues to where he couldn't keep playing. But I don't know that I'd say he was jealous. I would say he probably wanted to be a professional athlete growing up too, but he's had things work out. Obviously our lives have kind of, I say, gone in different directions. We're still very close, but he's married with a 3-year-old daughter and has a good job, and his life is successful, from that point of view. And then obviously I'm not married and I don't have any children, but I feel like I've been successful in the path that I've gone to. So I wouldn't say he's jealous. Our lives have taken different courses, but both of them I'd say have worked out pretty well to this point.
Now, you're not married, but I did see you talking to a really beautiful girl last time. Do the girls chase you just because you're in a baseball player?
Well, I wouldn't exactly say I got to beat them away with a stick or nothing like that, but it probably doesn't hurt, that I'm a baseball player, but yeah, I don't really know how to answer that,
actually. He's got a couple secrets we're not going to find out today. Well, what I wanted to ask you about, when you grew up and you went away, you knew that playing pro ball could bring multi-million dollars once you really go and Babe Ruth move over. Were you influenced by how much money could be made in playing pro ball?
Well, that certainly is enticing. You look at the, these multi-million-dollar contracts that some of these guys are, signing and all that. Obviously that's nice, and it's, it'd be cool to have and all that kind of thing. But you also play because I love the game, and I mean I'm not going to say it's not at all about money. I mean that'd be awesome, of course, to be in the big leagues and making a lot of money, but excuse me, just to to be able to play, to do something at the highest level possible, I think is ultimately the dream. I mean, you grow up when you're a little kid, you don't necessarily want to play in the big leagues because of all the money they're making. You want to play in the big leagues because, it's Major League Baseball and you're playing against the kids or the guys that you grew up watching and idolizing and that kind of thing. And, I've had a lot of guys that, that I came up through the minor leagues playing with that have gone to the major leagues and done well. And I look at them and the success that they've had, and I kind of see that, it's right there within my grasp. And, I think that just the fact of playing at that level is probably a bigger aspiration of mine than the actual money aspect of it, I guess.
You're right. Okay, we won't go there any further, but I do want to ask you about, now you're not quite 30, and so you've grown and never did go the drug scene or the drinking scene or the smoking scene or all of that. And I know a lot of the players do go that direction. So why do you think, tell us a little bit about how you got through your teenage years without getting into what a lot of people around town were doing at that time?
Well, I think what you surround yourself with is what you're going to ultimately become, and I've been blessed my whole life. Like I said, I went to Madison Academy, which is a Christian school, but that certainly does not mean that there's no trouble to get into. I did have a lot of my closest friends growing up through high school and in college, and even today are very strong Christians, and they've been good to keep me accountable. My coaches in high school were, they were real good to make sure we were disciplined and doing the right things and keeping up our schoolwork and all that. And I think, and also just the fact that I was always playing growing up. I was always, if it wasn't football season, football season spilled over into basketball season, and then basketball spilled over into baseball, and then it was summer, and I had summer baseball and, and a summer job and things going on at church. And so I always had things keeping me busy. I didn't have a lot of spare time after school to go get into trouble with whoever was doing, what may not have been, should have been done. But I think it probably has a lot more to do with my family and the friends that I was blessed to have coming up, and especially in college. You go off to college, and that's a good opportunity for kids to kind of branch out and kind of try some new things. I still had baseball to keep me busy, plus a lot of my teammates I had some good, strong Christian teammates too, and that's important, I think, when you go to college and you're kind of on your own for the first time and not living with mom and dad under their roof, under their rules anymore. Like I said, the people that I think that you surround yourself with are going to have a big influence on who you turn out to be.
You're not going to tell me any little glitches you did during those years? I know my son, one time he got with one of his friends, and this guy was from a really, really fine family, and they were making bottle rockets or some kind of thing, and I got so upset that my husband and I took him to the police station, said, "We don't know what he's done. Will you take him?" And because we just were so frustrated with some of the things they were doing, and they were just having fun, really. They didn't mean, but to me it could be serious if they got those. So the policeman just kind of laughed at us, said, "I believe he's going to be all right. You go ahead and take him back home." But didn't you ever have any bottle rocket times or something you did? I'm going to ask Lynette, because I bet she knows Bill and her couple of things you did. Tell us the worst thing you think you ever did.
The worst thing I've ever done, I don't know one particular instance. I'm sure my mom and dad could probably come up with a laundry list of things I've done, that drove them nuts. But I certainly am far from perfect, and I enjoyed getting into my share of mischief growing up. As far as the worst thing I've ever done, I don't really know.
We're not going to find it out. I can tell you right now we're not. Okay, well, let's, you knew people when you were playing in Oregon that didn't stick to the rules. How did you stay strong when you were there?
Well, there's always going to be people in every situation where you are that, you know, are trying to do things their own way. Maybe they're breaking the rules, or maybe they're just not necessarily living a life that, you know, is morally acceptable, or, you know, I don't know what the proper term is, but at this point in my life, I think I've got a foundation of what I believe in, you know, my faith, and I think that helps to keep you accountable when at times when you're not necessarily surrounded. You know, if I'm not here with my family and with all my close friends and all that kind of thing, I still had some close teammates in Portland this year that you know, could help keep me accountable, and those are the guys that I kind of spent most of my time with. But at the same time, there still is ample opportunity, you know, to kind of try some new things and, you know, kind of stray away, I guess, or whatever. But I think that's where the relationship that you have spiritually comes into play, because you have a solid foundation, and you don't necessarily need somebody in your back pocket the whole time, you know, telling you this is right or this is wrong, or anything like that, because you have a conscience. Maybe, you know, you have the Holy Spirit guiding you, or whatever you want to call it, to try to keep you in line. And I don't know. I just think that's, you know, as I'm getting older, I'm developing more of obviously my own faith, and that's kind of what has gotten, you know, that keeps you in line, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I had a student when I was teaching in a college in Crystal Springs, Tennessee, the one I was telling you about, Ken Rutgers, played with the Green Bay Packers, and he, a lot of his friends, now he was there 12 years, but some of them were in major, well, this was NFL, which of course is different, but anytime you have a lot of money, if it's, you know, multi-million dollars that are coming in, and sometimes they'd be 5 million, 7, 15, lots of money, a lot of money. And I remember one story that I think's in this Home Field Advantage, or after the game is over, one of the books or videotapes, he told about the guy that was playing with him was not, you got to tell me this word, called back again. He'd been playing 5 years, but he didn't get traded, nobody. So now he's making $5 million, and the best job he got offered was $50,000. He couldn't scale down from the millions of dollars to him a small amount of money. And he said he got some of those, when they call sports, you know, the sports color and so forth, they're in that income range. I think his was actually working at a country club, and he said he had called where they used to all go and hang out at this country club over in, I believe it's South Carolina, Myrtle Beach. I don't remember for sure which one, but he said that he called him because he'd been going there for 5 years, and they playing golf and so forth. And he said that he called him and said, "Do you have a job for me? I didn't get called back again to play." And they said, "No, we really don't." And he said, "Well, anything." And he said, they said, "Well, we could use somebody taking the bags in." And when, so he said, I'll take it. He went there to work, and some of his Green Bay Packer friends came to play golf. He had been with them within the last year. Now, when the limousine pulled up, he is to take the baggage into the house because he couldn't, he had not saved any of that money, and he didn't have his house paid for. So that was kind of sad. So if you do make the multi-millions, have you, your financial people will probably not tell you, don't pay off your house, just keep that money, we'll keep it going for you. Have you been advised, if you do get into the major leagues and so forth, what to do about the finances?
Well, I certainly don't have that problem quite yet. I think that discipline, you know, that you live with in your whole life has, in every other aspect of your life, has to roll over into that aspect too. And you have to be disciplined with the money that you make. Obviously, everybody that plays knows that they're not going to play forever, but you also have a hard time seeing past the today, and you think, I'm making this much money now. My career is going to continue to blossom, and I'm going to continue to make more money and more money. And it doesn't matter. I can go buy this $5 million house, and I can go buy a $250,000 car, and I can do all these things I want because I'm making all this money right now without seeing the larger picture. I think if you have that discipline in your life, and you can kind of see, well, this is the case for now, but I need to save up. You can always get injured. You never know. I mean, sports are a crazy game. I mean, you can be in the prime of your career, and all of a sudden, one wrong step, and you blow out a knee, and you're done, and your career's over. So, like I said, I mean, you have to keep the larger picture kind of in your scope, I guess, and be disciplined to take care of what you've been given. Especially if you have a family, you have to put away for your family, to take care of them later in life. And
what about your heroes when you were growing up, and did you ever see when you were in all these places, Lancaster, California, and everywhere, did you see in your mind that I'm going to be there one day making that kind of money? Who was your heroes?
Well, I always, coming up through the minor leagues, never doubted that I had a chance, and still don't doubt that I can pitch in the big leagues. Obviously, my career hasn't gone as smoothly as I would have hoped. I would have planned on being there 2-3 years ago by now. But there's been some bumps in the road, but I feel like even though it hasn't gone the way I kind of would have mapped it out to be, I feel like the way that God has moved me along is obviously the best route, and I can see in retrospect, looking back, you can see the blessings that have come from some of the things that I've supposedly endured, but not that I've really had a tough go at it. Just like I said, I haven't got to the big leagues as quickly as I would have liked to, but you never lose sight of that, and I think when you do stop to lose sight of that is when it's probably time to pack it in and go do something else. As far as heroes or favorite players or anything like that growing up, I was a big fan of Roger Clemens. Obviously, he's had some issues in the last year or so that have been pretty disappointing. Obviously he hasn't been, I guess, found guilty of anything, but you kind of that's disappointing to hear about. John Smoltz I was a big fan of his. He has never been accused, or his name has never been brought up in a bad light or anything, and so kind of to see the two directions that both of those guys have gone, it's kind of interesting, I guess, to kind of see that the two of the most dominant pitchers growing up for me, and they kind of have gone different ways, but it's also been kind of neat. I've had the opportunity to meet some other guys, Greg Maddux, Randy Johnson, some guys like that I also grew up watching. And Maddux was with the Braves. I was a huge Braves fan, growing up, and so to be able to meet him, and kind of be at spring training with him this year, it was kind of neat to get to talk to him and learn some things from him. And but you also kind of see, just watching people like that. I was at spring training with Greg Maddux this year, and just to watch the way he went about his business and the discipline that he had, on the baseball field, and taking care of his weightlifting and his conditioning and his throwing. And he didn't necessarily have to do all the busy work that some of the rest of us had to do, because he's a Hall of Famer, and he's kind of past all that, and he's earned the right to not have to do it. But he still has the discipline to do, take care of his business and make sure he stays on top of his game.
Now, you may or may not be there with him playing one of these years. So what alternative plans has Adam Bass made for himself?
I don't necessarily have one thing that I really am dying to do when baseball ends, but I do have my degree. I finished up with a finance degree from UAH. I enjoy some things in real estate. My dad and brother and I have flipped a couple houses the last couple of years, so maybe I'll go that direction. I don't really know, but I'm not really worried about it, because I feel like I've got some options, and so something will work out. I feel pretty certain.
Well, do you have written down in your goals book what a girl needs to be in order to hook Adam Bass? Or do you have a favorite? Say, okay, she needs to do this, this, this.
I've got some things I look for. I'm not going to specify right now, I don't guess, but I do have some certain things I look for, and obviously a godly woman is one of them, and I'd like for her to be fairly attractive, which would be nice, and some other things. I won't really get into that, but.
So what do you see? So you don't know if you're going into finance or real estate or play ball. You're not sure which direction you might be going of any of those. What advice would you give to young people that may not have had your opportunity? Now, you heard the girl tell about her life, and she wasn't a Christian. She, the testimony that was given by Kristen just recently. Were you there and heard her testimony? She never grew up in a Christian family, didn't know anybody that were Christians, and yet she just started reading the Bible and became a Christian primarily through that. And somebody said, hey, why don't you go to church with us? And she did, and she thought she kind of made, it took her a while to accept what all was going on. But then she made a commitment, and she's going for it. She's wants to do the right things, no more of the things she did in the past. What would you advise someone? You have heroes that are looking at you. I mean, you have young men looking at you as their hero. What would you advise them to do? And maybe they didn't grow up with a Lynette and Bill like you did.
Yes, ma'am. I have been very blessed. I've been, in basically every aspect of my life, with a great family, with, great opportunities. And it's hard to, I guess some people that have a tougher life, it's kind of hard to look at somebody who's never, who's kind of, I won't say been handed things on a silver platter, but I can't say that I've really ever, been in dire straits for anything. I've never needed.
At least a platinum platter. But tell us what you would say in the last minute or two for advice for young men that want to play ball as bad as you did, but didn't have that opportunity.
Like I said, the opportunities that I've had, some people don't have that opportunity, and that's kind of the way it goes. God doesn't promise us that everything's going to be easy. If there's something that you want to do, you got to set your mind to it and go after it, and kind of create your own opportunities. And whether that works out for you or not, God's always going to be faithful. And He tells us in Romans, all things work to the good of those who love the Lord. That doesn't mean that everything's going to work out just like you want, but it will work for the good. It will work out for something in the future that's going to be good if you just trust in God and trust His plan.
So I guess what you're saying is that, first of all, to look into this matter of believing in God and loving Him. And even if you didn't have a Christian family to grow up in, you might have been any nationality, any other kind of religion, and at the same time, you would like to have the security that Adam Bass has had. And by the way, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule coming to be with us.
Thanks for having me.
And if you want to get this DVD, and you're very welcome to, you can call our toll-free number, 877-823-6886. That is 877-823-866. It's running across the bottom of your screen. I can't remember what it is now. But if you would like to have some of these Home Field Advantage books, or the Born Again Marriage book, or the one that Mike Detchmendy helped me to write with the Emily book, hardcover and a jacket, yours may not be, and the Build a Better You Starting Now. And we also teach writing, teach you how to write your life story. And by the way, I think that Mr. Bass should do the same thing. Well, along with Mike Detchmendy, who came from FedEx in his 757 over here to run camera, just being nice to us because he's our neighbor over here, and Sandy Newton that's here. And I am so happy that you joined us also. I'm Bonnie Liphart along with Adam Bass. Bless your heart for watching.